Since one of the reasons I'm down here, and I know we got to run here, but I want to be in a country where I can express myself creatively and not get crushed by the big corporate kleptocracy. You know, America's a kleptocracy run by oligarchs. Yeah. And as you said, across all Hollywood, banking, the courts, private, everything, you're crushed at every level. And it's amazing. It's as you said, you know, you and I have had some conversations. One of the reasons I'm down here is like, you know, what can I bring to help? And, you know, I want to bring creativity and movie making and my love of movies and bring that here to a place where I think people have a lot to say down here. I think the 4 decades of civil war and gang violence, I think El Salvadorians have a lot to say and they want to express themselves, you know, and you're coming out of, it's like, you know, when the wall fell in Berlin, you know, Berlin has now become this creative epicenter and this all this music and punk rock. Like it's I was just there last October doing a show with Lee Camp, and we did a show in what was formerly East Berlin. Right. And I was like, wow, I was there as a kid when the wall was up, and yeah. So I don't know. I feel like
that's already 30 years ago, 34 years ago. Like I've been to Berlin, right? So the creative centers of the world usually are in places where it's very cheap to live, like Paris in the 20s, the lost generation. New York in the 60s, you know, Soho in the 60s and the 70s was cheap. And you had the Andy Warhol, you know, factory and stuff like that was in New York. It was very cheap. You had Berlin became a mecca for artists because in East Berlin, the wall came down and, you know, you could have a flat. It's dirt cheap in Berlin at that time. And so I think you're right in that El Salvador has potential to become the new global art center for artists and writers and filmmakers to come. It's still very cheap. I mean, it's still, there's a great, you know, on Twitter, there's Salvadoran Pride. Is a Twitter account I follow, and it's the guy who's a tourist said, I'm going to see what I can buy for $20. And for $20, he bought a lot of stuff. He bought like 2 meals, some stuff at the store, you know, that he needed, and $20 goes a long way in El Salvador, and that's appealing if you're an artist. I mean, there's San Salvador, which is the capital, but 45 minutes away, you've got, let's say, Ilopango, on Lake Ilopango. And I mean, literally, you can for a couple $100 a month, you can get a flat. You know, you're living in, and it's a beautiful lake there, and it's safe, of course, because the gangs have all been eradicated. And over the next 5, 10, 15 years, that place is going to explode in value. Yeah. This place is exploding in value. El Zonte has already kind of left the barn, right? I mean, they've got 2 or 3 projects down there where the condos are going for some pretty handsome sums of cash, which only 3 or 4 years ago would have seemed impossible. But there's a lot of coast. There's a lot of coast yet to go. Bitcoin City in that area is being developed.
That's way out in Berlin, right?
Toward the east, yeah. Yeah. So that's all coming. So this is, I think, you're on the vanguard of folks coming, you know, and I think you're the first podcaster really from the States to make this jump, and I think they're going to reap huge first mover advantages. You know, Lee Camp is going to be begging to get in here in a few months, but we're going to say, you know, Lee, sorry, but Graham's got all the time slots, and you're just going to have to get in line. And Lee, no Lee, you know, our other friend who left. You know, who's our, you know, he's in LA. He's on with glasses, you know.
Oh, Ron Placone? No,
you know, I'm going to leave soon because now obviously my energy level, this cup of coffee only could take me so far. And now I'm like, oh, man, I just turned 64, you know. It's
hey,
like,
happy birthday.
It's like, it's amazing. You really do just become like old. It's like, it's like, oh, you know what? I'm actually old.
Well, you have the energy of a young man.
God damn it, Jimmy Dore.
Oh, Jimmy Dore.
Right,
yes.
Jimmy Dore.
Yes.
Like he's frustrated, right? Yes. He goes every day. He's on his show saying, "I can't believe it. It's so obvious what happened with COVID and Moderna and Pfizer. It's so obvious. I can't believe it. Doesn't anyone see it?" It's like, you know. And I was on a show talking about Bitcoin. You know, and he's like, "Yeah, I get it. It's so obvious." But okay, if it's so obvious, why are you still the fucking LA? If it's that obvious, Jimmy Dore, okay? it's obvious that you should be, how about this? People say, I kind of troll people with this. I was on Alex Jones recently, and I'm like, Alex Jones is like, hey, brother. The New World Order is taking over. Max Kaiser, famous economist, known him for 25 years. What's your top concern right now? Max Kaiser. And I'm like, I'm leaving the United States. It's a piece of shit. And he's like, no, we're going to fight. And my point is that, look, America is an idea. It's in your head. Wherever you go, America goes with you. If you understand the principles of economic liberty, freedom, democracy, right? It's in your head. Wherever you go. I'm more American in El Salvador than I am in New York. Right?
Yeah.
This is America now. This is the new America. If you believe in freedom
of speech. We're practicing freedom of speech, right? Here in America.
This is it. This is the place you want to be. So I'm not fleeing. I'm not. Why would I stay and fight? When there's nothing to fight for, right? What am I fighting for exactly?
And the fight eventually just crushes you. If you want to stay in America and fight it, and there are people fighting the good fight, and my hat's off to them, but I just feel like I've been fighting the fight, and I've gotten crushed by it. I mean, I've lost my home. I've been censored on social media. I have a hard time getting work in Hollywood because I talk too much about Epstein, and I'm anti-war. And so,
right.
Liberals are like, war's okay when a Democrat does it, and that doesn't line up with me, man. So I agree. You're taking the American principle, which was a revolutionary concept,
right,
and we're applying it in a place where actually the government wants it, and is creating an environment for it here to flourish.
Look, while they're tearing down statues of Thomas Jefferson in Philadelphia, there's a new Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, Madison, Ben Franklin in El Salvador. His name is President Najib Bukele. He's all the founding fathers wrapped up into one.
Yeah,
he's got them all.
And he's even better because he's not just a rich guy with slaves that's trying to escape taxes. And the other thing, I equate America as this. To me, I see America as like an addict. And the thing about an addict, you can try to help them, you can try to get them, but if they don't want to, if an addict wants to go down hard, you have to get out of the way, because an addict will have collateral damage. If you try to help too much, the addict will pull you down, and you'll get crushed with it. So it's just sort of like, I hope America fixes itself.
Yeah.
But it needs to get, like an addict, there's always another rock bottom. And it can get worse and worse. So you never know. You always think, well, this is the rock bottom. This is when the addict, and some addicts hit a rock bottom and go, I need to get help. And then some just get worse, and then they OD
if somebody's
and die.
drowning, he's trying to help them, you can drown.
Yes.
That's why it's important to learn how to save a drowning person. There's a technique to it, because otherwise, if you try to help somebody who's drowning, you can drown yourself.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing as the United States. They are drowning in fiat money. They're drowning in opiates. They're drowning in awful politicians. They're drowning in dementia. And they are really going underwater. And so to try to help them it might prolong their misery, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to hit bottom, right? So why give them another cocktail to drink on of fiat money? It's just going to prolong the downward spiral. Just, they got to hit bottom for them and try to. I mean, there are talented people there. Elon Musk is a very talented guy. Mm-hmm. He's doing incredible things in the United States, and he's building all kinds of fantastic things. And so that proves that there's still room for excellence in the United States. But you got to fix that. Has to be accessible to, of the 350 million people that live there. There needs to be opportunities for anybody who wants an opportunity, but they're not getting that.
And that's why I've been telling my audience for 4 years now. Once I figured it out, I said, buy Bitcoin. Just buy some Bitcoin. Even just make 5 to 10% of your assets in Bitcoin, and in the long run, you will be all right. Like, you have a chance of getting out of this horrible central bank. They want you in debt, as you called it, gulag casino when you were on my show in November.
Yeah. Well, that's like, El Salvador is like the Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the argument, people say, well, I'd love to get out of the fiat money nightmare, but it's impossible. You know, you can't do it because we're all trapped in this thing, and I got to make more money. And but then the Bitcoin is the exception to this rule. It's a new path. And with El Salvador, it's also like people will say, well, what are you going to do? Everyone, where are you going to move to? All the countries are the same. They all have terrible leaders. It's all just terrible. But it's like, no, actually, El Salvador is the exception to that rule. So imagine coming to El Salvador and being a Bitcoiner. It's like, it's really a double-barreled, elixir of excellence. This is really the feeling that I'm a Bitcoiner, Stacy's a Bitcoiner, we're in El Salvador, I've been here for 2 years. Like, we live on a much different planet than everybody else. I mean, everyone else is fiat money, living in countries that have no human rights. Getting back to the human rights question, human rights are here, so is Bitcoin.